Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RHAP. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here today to talk about episode 3 of The Getaway. As we are getting away from the coverage that was non-existent for the week because now we're here again. Yes, I've done it. With me, as always, Sasha. How you doing, Sasha?
So good. Me and my llamas are here, or alpacas. Sorry. Oh my gosh. How dare I? I did have the little Fortnite alpaca. It's gone, and I'm very sad. Or I guess Fortnite llama, whatever. Anyway, I do have an octopus, if that helps. But I'm here. Big day for us cute animal lovers. And also Discovery Channel lovers, because wow, the mammals. I don't. That was crazy. That dog. Shout out to that white dog.
I was not sure where you were going with
No,
that.
I was just saying, like disc. Listen, I feel like that's a Discovery Channel thing. We've seen some lions on Discovery Channel.
Okay.
Either way, shout out white dog. That's who's the real winner of this show, white dog.
Well, we are very excited. We have another very special guest, Amy, who you may recognize if you're watching the video version. Who is are you an executive producer? Are you producer?
I'm an executive producer.
Executive producer. Very fun. Of The Getaway.
Yeah, they tried to book Odin the big white dog, but he's sort of completely full up on press commitments, so they got me instead. But it's an honor to be here.
We didn't want to mention it, but yeah, we did.
I think your fans deserve to know that you did try to hear from the person they wanted to hear from. But I'm hoping that I can do at least a quarter of the job he would have done.
Hopefully this heads off all the comments who are just like, where's the dog?
Where's Odin? And the answer, I'm pretty sure, is still Utah.
Still on top of an alpaca.
Yeah,
one alpaca. That's crazy.
I mean, look,
on his name.
If we want to open up this here podcast with some sort of juicy, delicious drama, I have it on good authority that Tomar Leche, who is the alpaca that Odin was sort of showing a lot of interest in during the episode, is not the alpaca that is usually his girlfriend, as described to us. I might have this backwards, but I just remember at some point while we were on the alpaca ranch, this was going on, and Dina, the wonderful ranch owner, was like, "That's not his girlfriend," because he's got a thing for alpacas, but he's got his favorites. So either Tomar Leche is the usual one, and there was a different point while we were there where he was humping a different alpaca, or Tomar Leche is kind of the side piece.
Odin, you dirty dog, for real. That's great.
I mean, no wonder why he declined the interview requests.
He's
knew what was coming.
He was gonna be. He got exposed.
I can't believe I opened this up by sort of airing out the dirty laundry of it.
I love that. Listen, Odin, real players, you gotta keep them in different area codes. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Why are you getting caught, Odin? Slip it. You know what? You're not my fave no more. I don't like people getting caught. Okay, that's embarrassing.
Sure,
for
girls
you.
from the same pen. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, come on. And girls, stand up. Okay, come on.
Sure.
Stop.
Amy, can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in like Wendover and like what you do?
Yeah. So I have been working there about 1.5 years now. I think as jet lag was sort of taking off, Ben and Adam needed more time freed up. So they were like, let's hire a Half as Interesting writer, which is one of our other channels. So I applied for that job, got it. And when I started, they were like, you're here to write Half as Interesting, help out a little bit on jet lag. And then, as we cook up new stuff, you'll be a part of that too. And then, sometime later, new stuff meant a road trip game show where you trick people across the beautiful American West. And I was like, this is amazing news. This is exactly what I wanted to do. Barely even sarcasm. I started out as just an HAI writer. I am still an HAI writer. But I also was very involved with the Getaway and have had some involvement here and there on jet lag as well, which has been a blast.
Yeah, folks have seen you on jet lag in Australia.
Mhm.
So listen, come on, keep up, people. Famous right here.
Right. I sort of feel like once you start recognizing me, that's a good indicator that you're like pretty in deep on jet lag. I'm sort of like an insider secret. Like if you came here and you already knew who I was, like you've sort of crossed the water line on that like iceberg meme. And congratulations.
Yeah, I was like, that is beautiful.
It's an honor to serve that critical role.
Yes. Do you have any background watching any like reality TV or competitive shows like this?
Taran, do I? They're always so diplomatic about this in our meetings at work. Sam will be like, so Amy has a lot of like genre knowledge here. So if because he's very nice and he doesn't want to be like, so Amy rots away watching old seasons of Survivor until she, falls asleep. I'm a huge fan of Survivor. That's like definitely my main one. I love the Traitors. I like a lot of reality competition stuff. I also love Below Deck.
What? Hello?
Yeah, well, because I really my deal with I will sort of try out any reality competition show. Non-competition reality doesn't do it for me, except for Below Deck, which is a masterpiece.
Okay, yes, and that is what I'm trying to get people to listen to the podcast. Shout out Big Deck Energy.
Shout out.
Listen, Below Deck kills it. All right.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I love Kid Nation for all my Kid Nation heads out there. Yeah, I really like. I love this kind of show, and so once it was clear that like the Getaway was the next thing we were doing, I was so juiced. I was so excited, and getting to like put together a show like this, sort of like thinking through like, okay, what are my favorite game mechanics of like all my favorite shows? What kind of challenges do they do? Like all the sort of hours of like behind the scenes stuff I've consumed, like how can we use this to our advantage? Like that was really fun. And then also the little things of just like getting to like put the votes in order so that they're read in the most dramatic way, like all these like little grace notes of making a reality show. It's as thrilling as I hoped it would be.
Wow. First of all, I can't believe it's taken us this long to know that these like really cool mechanic came from you, because I have been talking about not to Taran, but in my head at least, so myself, whatever, about like, oh, the vote reveal is so cool, even though we got lost in who's whom. But now I know that the shirt colors equal chat colors. I'm back.
We did discover that.
Thank you, chat. They really told us. And it's really exciting to see that like someone that's knee deep in genre knowledge was part of why, all of this like cool stuff that draws us and our listeners in. Like the girls that get it. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't claim ownership of all the mechanics in this game. I would love to. But
why
it would
not?
Be dishonest. But yeah, I think it was really good to have a balance of like, I am so sort of horrifically Survivor pilled and all this, and like, various of the other people who worked on the show have watched some or all of these other competition shows, but then there are also people who like are coming out with a very fresh set of eyes, like aren't sort of as locked into structures of like network reality stuff, and I think that yeah, we had a very good balance of me being like, well, they did this on this episode of this season of whatever, and then being like, but this would be fun. And it's like, all right, so what can we? A sort of beautifully vague sentence. But yeah, it was very fun to sort of like pick and choose, like such and such a thing from such and such a show works. Like every time I turn on an episode of The Traitors, I thought my sort of anger at The Traitors not being incentivized to sabotage the missions would eventually fade. I thought that I would do it. I thought I would get comfortable with it, accept it as part of my life. No, makes me mad every single time. So then it was like getting to do this was just like, okay, they're sabotaging the missions. I can breathe.
I take my anger out on it by just skipping the Traitors competitions entirely, and I say I refuse to watch you because you're useless.
Yeah, but now that they've put in the shield thing, which makes it better, but it's still,
you don't get to see Phaedra and MJ running around. Sad for you.
Yeah, one thing they had figured out is they're like, okay, so the missions don't matter, but we can make Bravo celebrities fall off a floating platform, and that is television.
I'm seated, all right? These are my queens for years, and now everyone else is meeting them. Ugh. Anyway, that's not
Look,
that.
Traders is how I ended up watching Below Deck. It had been recommended to me for a very long time, but I fell in love with Kate Chastain and the larger Peacock marketing strategy of putting their celebrities on the Traders, and then it was a short path from there to being sort of a diehard Aisha girly, which is what I am now.
Oh,
and so I just watch any season Aisha is in. And
I love that.
this
Yes,
is a life.
yes.
We can talk about The Getaway, though.
Please.
We should talk about The Getaway. You start this episode kind of like, how do we deal with this patch problem? And it seems like you have a bit of a backup plan. I assume this was always in the works in case something like this happened?
Yes. So those pictures that became the poster gag, as you can sort of see in the episode, were taken when we did our sort of initial like role assignment like meetings in that hotel conference room that you see every now and again. So this was always the plan. I mean, the idea being, if we as production are like sort of a player in this game and you can beat us, then we should also be playing. Like we should have some tricks up our sleeve. That's why we're there. So yeah, the idea here was always like, at some point, it'll be really good if they're getting a little bit suspicious to just throw something at them that makes the idea that they're all the snitch feel a little bit ridiculous. Like there's this quote from, I think, Teller of Penn and Teller, where he's like, magic is often just someone putting more time into something than you would reasonably expect that they would, or something. Yeah. So it's like, if we take some random picture of you going like puppet hands, and then a couple days later, we show you like a mocked up poster for the show where you're this big star. Do you assume that we took 6 of those and then sent them to our very busy graphic designer, Simon Buckmaster, who as a bonus lives in France, and like get him to make, so weird like time zones, he's super busy. Get him to make 6 of these posters just to convince you you're the star? Or do you just think that like maybe you're the star? So this was definitely not only something we had prepared in advance, but something we were so excited to do because we're sick people.
Yeah. I will say this is the first time I felt a little bit bad for the players that they were so excited about their poster that will never be the actual poster.
Yeah, no, every now and then something would go really well in the show and it would come with that little side thing of like, am I bad? Am I bad for this one? But they were all so bought in on like, it was so, and I think this has come up even on this podcast before. Every player in this game wanted this show to be good so much. Like they're just the sweetest, kindest, loveliest cast, and they always wanted for the show to be good. And so sometimes something like this would happen and I'd be like, well, I feel bad, but they're going to be thrilled when they find out how good the show's coming out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Am I the drama? Because I love that. I said, yes, get him again. What else are we doing?
No,
I mean, Patch got us.
Yeah. This is the masochism of watching these shows, is that I feel bad and I feel good that I feel bad. Right. I'm like, yes, I feel bad for them, but trick them more.
Right. Because their reactions would be, for me, like incentive to be like, great, what's next? Because Georgia being like, please, I need to frame this in my house. And you have to keep a straight face. Yeah, you the girl. Yes.
Yeah. And then she did get the actual real poster in giant size and put it up in her house. So she's still, look, dreams are coming true regardless, just not
I mean, I would still put up that one because that's hilarious. And it's a reminder for me to not be gullible. And
stay humble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be aware, babes, of what's going on in this world.
Or you could just show it to people and be like, yeah, that's the show I was a star of. See the poster.
Yeah, it's a good way to test whether your beloved friends and family actually watch the show.
Very true.
Yeah, I'm a big deal.
And you need to be testing your beloved friends and family whenever
always.
You can. Yeah.
It seems like it works very well with Padge. It was his reaction was very funny. It was just like, oh, so I really am the only one.
Unbelievable. How are we going to beat the scripting allegations if Padge is going to drop a line like, oh, so I really am the only one? It was I mean, I felt exactly the way Ben did in the episode when Sam tells him, like, Patch literally said, like, "Oh, it's not only like my theory was wrong." I was just like, "Oh, Patch, no."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were right
Yeah.
there.
He had what does Ben say? You had us in your talons.
Yes.
Um,
Mm,
and he did. But yeah, I mean, I think like I want to say most or all of us like walked away from day 2 being like, he's got us. Like he's gonna see right through this poster thing. He like once you've figured it out, you're gonna have to be able to see it everywhere. So I like was pretty sure that the poster gag was gonna be really funny, but
mhm,
was not going to work. Or was gonna maybe like make him question it, but not
Mm.
make him lock in so much. I mean, it's hard to sort of fully kill an idea in someone's head. So it's definitely not the last you'll see of us trying to distract or confuse
Oh, I can't wait.
the players. But yeah, it was definitely like it was kind of a relief that it went so well. And it is, I don't remember whose idea this was. It wasn't mine. But once it came up to do this, it was so funny. And in hindsight, of course, it worked so well. But yeah, to see it work so well on Patch was wonderful. And also, I once again felt a little bad for.
Well, this challenge that you had them do, I think this was my favorite challenge so far, because it really highlighted the premise of the show. To watch 4 people all trying to accomplish the task in the worst possible way, but, like, also in, like, a very physical way, to watch them, like, run very slowly or be like, "Oh, man. Oh, what are we?" But it's all of them, and they all think they're the only ones. It was so funny to watch the entire time.
Yeah, this was the first time we really got to look at and be like, every single person is sabotaging and in such different ways, right?
Mhm.
Like Steven's trying to do this sort of hot and cold thing of really loudly being like, don't start with the toenails, like get the alpaca against a fence, like trying to be loudly helpful while quietly like throwing everyone
Yeah.
off. Meanwhile, Foreign King Diva is like diving, jumping around, like unleashing alpacas. Like I love when he throws his like I have fallen over and shit on my birthday. I'm done. Like that is gorgeous. Like Georgia is very subtle, and Patch is like, he throws out this like huge strategic thing at the beginning, and then basically is like, this is already going super bad. Like I've done enough. So yeah, it was so fun to watch them screw it up. I mean, anytime it cuts to us, sort of off screen, I guess, you can see like that we're just beside ourselves. Like we're laughing so hard, we're having the time of our lives. But yeah, I think it was especially interesting, like how different each of their sort of strategies for sabotaging was, which maybe is part of why like it didn't, even though everyone was sabotaging, people didn't wise up as much to like maybe someone else here is the snitch, because like any one of them could be like, well, no one else is doing what I'm doing, and I'm doing what the
Mhm.
snitch would do.
Oh
But
my, it's just the chaos of it all. And I also had a question about Steven's question, right? Like he says, "Hey, can you make sure to say no when the binder is asked?" Was that something, sorry, that y'all had already decided, "Hey, we're not gonna do that"?
yeah, the intention had always been that the person in that spotter
Okay.
position had this sort of like rare opportunity to do something without anyone seeing, which
Mhm.
we generally tried to avoid in the show. But because all they can do is communicate with other people, they couldn't do such a massive they couldn't get caught so red-handed. So we had created that position being like, okay, this is going to give someone the opportunity to do something pretty out in the open if they want to, without getting caught.
I love the way he executed though, where like he just like double checked with Adam, like, even if I ask you, you're gonna tell me no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. And then
hey,
he does it and he's like, "Hey Adam, can they look at the book?" And Adam's like, "They cannot." And he's like, "Okay, take it."
Yes,
yeah.
and the fact that he said, "Okay, dickhead," Oh my God. How do you keep a straight face? Because you're just like, well, let me say something back. And you're like, no. My game, my mechanic. Right.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can't speak to whether or not Adam heard that in the moment. I didn't know that had happened until we were in the edit. And I have not heard from Adam on this matter. But yeah, that was one of those things that, like, you can only see and hear so much as it's happening on set. There's like a million things going on. Lunch was coming in. Like, there's a lot, much afoot. But so yeah, it's been really fun in post-production, seeing these little moments of, like, anytime Foreign sort of turns to the camera and winks, I'm like, this is rocks.
Oh my, and Patch getting literal spit in his mouth.
Oh God.
The X-rated AF episode. People are spitting in mouth. Oh, not people, animals are spitting
Only
in
on
mouths.
Nebula, baby.
Yeah. That cutaway of Sam being like, aren't you glad this is on Nebula? Because we couldn't show that on YouTube. Odin, stop being a cheater. We don't like
Odin is not meant for the general public. You have to get through a couple episodes of this and be really on our side before we're willing to introduce you to Odin.
I love it. Like, I literally my notes are like, why is this so X-rated? And Patch having to stop. This will be a question I have for Patch. Like, was he truly that, disgusted where he had to stop multiple times and to be like, I think I'm gonna throw up because this thing just spit in my mouth.
I mean, I'll wonder for the rest of my days how well this challenge would have gone had they all actually tried their best. Because the original here's some behind the scenes for you. The original design of this challenge was way harder. Somehow. It, like, changes include one, that all the alpacas weren't going to be in that little pen at the beginning. They were just going to be sort of free roaming. But I think when Ben and Adam arrived early on the day to set up, and Dina, ranch owner, told them, if they exit this pen, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to run through that fence over there, which we get to see Neapolitan Sunday, I believe, do wonderfully at the end. So they were going to be out of the pen. They were going to have to, like, once they completed a task for an alpaca, like, herd it to stand in a circle on the ground, and money would only count if it was attached to an alpaca that was still in the circle when time ran out.
Oh, boy.
And it was going to be the circle that's like a circle that we put the caller Steven in, so that person has to call and herd. And then the third thing that was immediately clear we could not do and have any chance of this challenge happening was the three who were not the caller were going to be tied to each other in hopes that they would fall over.
Right.
Well, you got that.
Yeah, which turned out not even necessary. But yeah, I mean, this was like, we had vastly underestimated the difficulty of the challenge, but it was pretty obvious, like, immediately. And those were all things that were very easy to adjust out. But, it's been a tough balance with, like, each of the challenges. You want it to be hard enough that sabotage can be, like, you can blame it on skill or luck or whatever. But you don't want it to be so difficult that, like, they can just easily, like, they don't even have to work to throw it. Like, they can genuinely try their best and have it still fall apart. So we ended up we untied them. We never actually tied them, but we discarded the rope that was going to tie all the players together, got rid of the circle, and yeah, generally made the challenge easier, which is hard to believe when you watch how it goes.
Well, it was perfect for, like, the style of effort they put. Because it was like it was like they were all toddlers who were, like, trying to be like, no, see, mom, I'm bad at this. You shouldn't have me do it. You know what I mean? Like do your laundry. Like, oh, I'm just fumbling with the laundry.
Weaponized
you need to do it for me.
Come through.
Very weaponized incompetence. Yeah.
The most important skill of them all. Really, the central facet of the game is weaponized incompetence, and
but everyone.
But
yeah,
all weaponized.
But whose weapon is the sharpest?
Oh my God. I feel like I could watch that challenge over and over again and find new things every time. It was so well done.
I have.
Yes. And listen, that's why we have such great cuts in there. But it just truly was such a joy where you're like, I'm just watching such a silly, fun show. And each person is like thinking about how to sabotage. And I have to talk about Georgia loudly, right? Speaking of like toddler mom relationship, Steven, you're doing so well. Oh my god, Steven, you the man. Wow.
You
Steven.
killed it for us.
Yeah, like if she listen, first of all, the fact that she didn't have a gold star on her, I was gobsmacked because you could tell that lady was like, no, he is good. Tomato Gate stressed my man out. Like, I can't have him go again. So it's just each person had such a different like story going on.
Mhm.
I didn't know where to look, and then the llama, alpacas on top of all of that.
Yeah, it was
Frankly,
it was a fun day.
Yeah, and then I looked them up and they're for sale. I don't know where I would store them, but I would like one. So
Yeah,
$5,000.
There was a little gift shop there, and she had like yarn spun from the alpaca's wool that was extremely difficult not to buy. I mean, as you maybe noticed throughout the course of the show, there were a lot of like pretty major merch heads on the trips. It's like on the crew, like in the bus, everywhere we go, like there's so much alpaca merch in the show after this. Still seeing donkey merch. Like,
Does Dan have an alpaca shirt currently?
I don't even know if they did t-shirts. I mean, maybe they do. I don't want to mess with Dina's t-shirt business if she had it. But no, I don't. We got all the cast little alpaca finger puppets. So Dan definitely has that because they all do. I don't know. I can't remember who got what, but you'll be seeing more alpaca merch and I think more donkey merch and merch from places we're about to go. Like, it was a big part of the operation, as it turned out.
Oh, I love this. I love this.
Yeah,
but
look,
you're totally
it was
right.
a genuine road trip.
Can Getaway not to take away from my queen, Denise? You said, yeah, Dina. I'm so sorry. But Getaway X alpaca merch when?
Yes. All our merch, which is currently available on the Nebula store, is just getaway merch. But yeah, maybe there should be more alpacas on it. Alpacas.
I will be buying that stuffed alpaca.
Good to know. I'll send an email.
Stuffed alpaca and Odin have to come together.
Magnetized, maybe?
Oh!
Ooh, okay.
At what side?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think we just
Your
tell them
choice.
when we say this product is magnetized, and when you receive it, you find out how.
Listen, if you were a little girl that played with Barbies, you know. Let's just say that.
And maybe so.
It was very interesting to see, as you mentioned, like the way that the way that each individual person sabotaged is so representative of how they've played the game. Where like, yeah, Georgia is like doing a little bit of sabotage here and there, but she's also focused on like the social strategy portion of the game of like, I need to use this not to sink anybody, but to prop my ally up so that I have strength when it comes to the voting period. You had Foreign, who was just like sabotaging another player while sabotaging, like setting somebody up to take a fall. Like, oh, I sabotaged Patch's thing, even though Patch is his ally.
Right.
Like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And then you have like Steven doing like his sort of like more subtle way of kind of like doing the thing. And then Patch, who like sets something up initially and then just tries his hardest.
Yeah. Poor sweet Patch. He tries so hard. It's like it's so reflective of how they're each playing, and it's so like, the more I've watched this episode, like, I watched it again before coming here. It was interesting to see how they sort of set up their strategies in the bus before they even got there. Like, I think Steven throws out like 5-ish minutes in being like, no one take the easy route today. Like, no one's taking the easy job. We're not rewarding that behavior anymore. Like, in the way that all these shows end up having their own little like self-regulating social thing. They're like, previously we've been rewarding non-risk taking. I think that now we should start rewarding risk taking. Yeah. And then ends up in the safe position and still manages to spin back, to pin it on Patch for a failure of trying. It was definitely like they were very switched on strategically, I think, for this one. to hilarious effect, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So then we get to the vote portion of the episode. And we talked about this last week that like we are seemingly at a deadlock, that there should be two pairs here, Patch and Foreign. Patch really like stood in for Foreign last week, and then Georgia and Steven, who have been working together the whole time. And like, who in their right minds would like flip from one side to the other, knowing that they're going to a final three with the duo on the other side, assuming that those duos are known enough, like open knowledge enough for those players. And so you even saw like Patch immediately comes out and is like, "Hey, Foreign, Steven was coming at you hard last time.
Yeah.
Like he really went for it." And what I thought was interesting about Patch and how he was like, "Oh, maybe I am the only one," was like his response afterward was, it doesn't make sense though. Like it's like if he's like, I guess I am the only one, but then in that case, have I overestimated you guys? Like your game doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he's
Like
like,
at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the social game, right? So it's like I guess I just still have to focus on that.
yeah, it's like, I guess I still have to win. This sucks.
Pat
Yeah.
being in a blender, right? Where he's like, "Oh, I thought I figured it out." He did. And then it's just the blending, and then Georgia spinning him around. Steven being like, yeah, trying to make some conversation. His ally, allegedly, being
Mm.
like, "Yeah, we're together, we're together." And then Georgia being like, "I'm gonna be straight with you. It's you." You the girl. And he's like, "No, but give me a reason. Why is it me?" And then Georgia says stuff. He's still like, "No. So that means you don't trust me? Say it to my face. Say it to my face." It's just, you see Patch going from like getting it to maybe a little bit losing it to a little bit losing to then completely just being so frustrated with the game.
Yeah, yeah. Could Shakespeare have written Patch? I ask myself this.
Ooh.
I don't know the answer. Such horrible tragedy befalls him in this episode. Yeah, like it's interesting to see the sort of betrayal of Patch come together because it was definitely not clear, on the day or beforehand that Foreign had any intention of turning on him. Like they really did seem quite locked in. But when they split up into those groups, like I mean, it felt like Georgia really like made the argument, and she and Steven came in with such a plan, because I think Steven initially proposes trying to turn Foreign and Patch against each other, and Georgia's like, no, I think we just got to say like it's Patch and hope that we can sell it, which is sort of risky, but worked.
I think it was the much smarter approach there
Mhm.
because I think that if they had tried to go to Patch to be like, we're gonna do Foreign, that would have like Patch would have just gone to Foreign and be like, they tried to get me to vote you just now.
Yeah.
Whereas the way it was like they tried last week when they didn't end up doing it, but this time they do want to do me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, I mean, I think you made a very relevant point earlier, which is that like it really depends how well everyone knows what the alliances are. Because Foreign describes his alliances as being with Georgia and Patch.
Right.
So I don't know that necessarily it was as clear to him that it was a 2v2 and he was like
Mhm.
turning on his closest person. I think he was like, well, I can force a tie or not. I don't know exactly sort of what his thinking was, but I'm not sure that the strength of Steven and George's alliance at this point was obvious to
Yeah.
other players, which is, I think, one of the things about it that is so well played.
Yeah, I mean, maybe should have been, given how often she was saying, "Great job, Steve."
Like,
Yeah.
come on.
But,
You
things
were
happen.
so great. You saved us.
But I guess that's why when you're like, "Well, I'm the snitch, so they're fine. They gotta be
Yeah.
loyal and nice to each other." So it checks out. I just couldn't believe that Foreign. I understand that maybe he also was cool with Georgia, but I was like, no, it's just you gotta do 2-2 and see what the mechanic is.
So I do think, and we can certainly ask Foreign at some point later, but like there's a world where I could see from Foreign's perspective, if he thinks I have one alliance with Patch, one with Georgia, Steven has been in the hot seat from the jump. And so Patch, on the other hand, has been super clear from the jump, and I'm the snitch. And so when it comes down to a final 3, it might be loyalty. It might also be like, who is the most likely snitch, because we don't want to lose. And so if I can snipe out Patch now, maintain my connection to Georgia, and then we can finally, once and for all, take our shot at Steven next time, because he's the sketchiest of us all. You can sort of see where that works. Whereas if he had gone with Patch and Georgia, like, who's the most sketchy between the 3 of them that they might vote out the final 3? Maybe, yes, he isn't the center of the social strategic alliances there, but if it's an actual snitch game, they might get worried about that. So he might be hoping that Steven is his final, like, snitch pin person.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like so much of the game, especially at this point, is about like, are you playing an alliances game or a snitch game? And like, we as the audience know it's just an alliances game. There is no snitch game, but like, it's very hard to tell from the inside. And so I think one of the things that ultimately flips Foreign is they're able to change it from being like, this is sort of an alliances thing. You know, Foreign tells Patch, I got you. Like, Steven and Georgia have got each other. And they, when they talk to Foreign, convince him, they're like, I kind of think there's still a snitch here. Like, and they sort of make it a snitch game. And, you know, Georgia is so in everyone's good graces that like, maybe her, if you assume she's a loyal because you're the only snitch, like her defending Steven like that maybe makes coming for Steven look even worse. So it's this very complicated layer cake of thought that they're all working in.
Yes, birthday cake for Foreign.
Birthday cake for Foreign. We did get one, for the record. After we were done filming, he had a wonderful surprise birthday party in the lobby of the Green River, Utah Holiday Inn Express.
So cute. When Sam came with those pies, I don't know if you watch Big Brother, Amy, but all I could think of was, anybody want cake? Anybody want cake? Because he just gives it to them so deadpan, and he's like, yeah, for you. Here you go.
It felt like there was gonna be something happening with the. It felt like there was gonna be like some surprise in there, or
a hidden
like
immunity idol in the apple pie.
I was like, open it. There might be like immunity, something, a clue.
What's going on with these pies?
Well, it's like, I mean, what's going on with these pies is that the Gifford Homestead in Capitol Reef is world famous for their wonderful pies. and we were filming there, and we were like, yeah, like, give the cast some pies. Why not? And we sort of thought that they would eat them maybe while they did their thing, but of course not. They were kind of pretty focused on the game. And I believe we do have some footage. They did ultimately eat the pies. And also the whole time, you know, as you're watching the kind of drama-filled deliberations, just know that like right behind the camera, whole crews. To those of you on audio, I've mimed eating a pie in a sort of slovenly manner, at least for myself. But yeah, like the pies are just really good, and we wanted them to have them. But yeah, they cracked into them eventually. The reviews were strong.
That's my problem, is that if you had given me a pie, I would have instantly like just dug into it looking for something, and then I wouldn't have been able to enjoy the actual pie.
Yeah, same. I'd be like, no, why did he just come in this like crazy, you know, voting time? We're trying to figure out 30 seconds each, blah, blah, blah. Pie? And then I'd be stressed. I picked the wrong pie and I gave someone the advantage. Oh, terrible.
Yeah. Maybe this was actually, I should have framed this differently. The pie was not because the place is known for pie and we wanted them to have pie. It was a brilliant red herring.
Yes.
Exactly. You were trying to
we
make
thought
them
it would
paranoid.
throw them off from the real premise of the game if we gave them pie, but they were too smart for us.
Oh boy. Well, you do certainly throw them off at the end of the episode as the betrayal of Patch comes in, and then they are awkwardly told as they sit in silence that actually he's not going to be leaving. Yeah.
And this is the beauty of a blind side, is it not? Is when it doesn't work.
Here's the daggers. Pull them out one by one.
Pull them out back in the bus. Take your pie.
Oh my god. The Sidemen did like a Big Brother show, the Sidemen YouTubers, and they also, I mean, whatever. This one guy was just like spending too much money out of their prize pot, so they vote him out. They reveal the vote and say that was a fake elimination. Not even like, maybe like y'all said, right? Next time 2 people are going, something, blah, blah, blah. At least they said, we just wanted to see who you would vote for. And then he just turns on the hot water, which is 500 pounds a minute. and like spends I think like 40,000 pounds because he's pissed that he got voted out. So this is my favorite trope. Because Patch, what you gonna do, baby? Let's go.
Yeah, he's in a bad spot. I mean, this is like, you know, non-elimination episodes can be so disappointing. Like they can be really bad, and we knew that going in. Like once we knew we were going to have one, because the game, it will not surprise you to know, was originally designed for 7 players, and we had a player have to drop out like shortly before we started, shortly enough that the plan was to go to 6 and have a non-elimination. And so when we were deciding like what the kind of contingency plan would be, it was like, well, we really don't want it to be like the fact that there's a non-elimination makes the whole episode feel like it was for nothing, or makes the person who would have gone home feel like they only survived because they got lucky, because they were in the hot seat on the day that it didn't matter. Like that can just be really unsatisfying. So we wanted to have it be like, okay, the votes still count, and the person who is kind of spared by this is at a huge disadvantage going into the next day. Like whether they're going in at a tie, or as they are with Patch having 3 votes on him and Steven having 2, like Patch can get out of this. He can win safety. He can whip the votes a number of different ways, but it's going to be really hard. And it's going to feel like if he does it, he really did like earn his spot back. And if he doesn't do it, then it's going to feel like the original vote was upheld. So the hope with kind of the way that we laid out this twist, while it was absolutely infuriating to the players, would still make the game still feel like genuine and playable, and not entirely a crapshoot.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess like I'm curious about how it will work, but I also don't want to go too in detail about next episode. So I won't
I mean,
ask too many questions.
Yeah, I can answer any questions that are described in what Miss Terry said on the phone.
Right.
Yeah, so it will be like that's what she said, right? Second half of the challenge. So
yeah, so there's the first half of the vote was today. Everyone cast their votes.
Okay.
Second half will be tomorrow, and all 8 of those votes will be counted.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like the vote will stand unless Patch gets immunity, or if it will add, or if they'll revote. So it'll be 8 total votes.
Yeah, safety will protect you. You will not go home if you have safety, no matter what the votes were on the first day. But yes, it's basically like these 4 votes are sitting in the little voting bag, and tomorrow 4 more votes will be added into the voting bag, and out of those 8, the most will go home.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Patch.
Was it explained and I missed it, or are we still waiting for an explanation of like what would happen if it was a tie?
So I mean, in this case, if it was a tie because of the twist, I believe it would have just stood, like the votes would have sat in the bag.
Oh,
and
right,
said,
yeah.
Well, it's a non-elimination day anyway. I don't 100% remember if we were going to make them do the sort of revote circus or not. They at this point know, and they sort of reference this, that if there's a tie, they'll get to revote. And if they are deadlocked some number of times, there will be some sort of a 1-to-1 or 1v1 competition between the 2 people who had the votes. And the winner of that will stay, and the other person will be knocked out. They don't know what that is. And I also, this was sort of what was written in the rule sheet that they were given. So that's the level of information they have.
So kind of like the Survivor method, but with a competition instead of rocks.
Yes, and whereas in Survivor, the people who didn't catch votes go to rocks. It's still the people who got votes.
Okay, so sorry, I misheard that. It's the people who got the votes. So really, there was no downside to Foreign tying up the vote, because he would have been in danger.
He would not have been in danger. No. I'm sure, within his strategy, there was a downside. I mean, it's easier to just get rid of someone than have to fight it out. But yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's, he's in some ways pledging his loyalty to Georgia and Steven, and that of course has its value to him. So, that's the upside. But no, he did not risk going home if he tied the vote. It was more about like how did he want to position himself going forward? And this is what he chose.
Listen, Patch allegedly, snaked his friend Matt, and now Foreign's taking Patch. It's wild. Trust
It's
no one.
an Ouroboros of
Yeah.
maybe snakes eating snake.
Yeah,
You
it's
get
a
it.
whale, yeah.
Metaphors can actually be hard, and it's hot in here right now, so I
Listen,
can't.
I
really
watch
be held to
Loki.
account.
I get it.
There you go.
I do really enjoy the fact that the like eliminated contestants are hanging around and just like Dan's just cracking jokes.
Yeah.
Dan
Yeah.
being like, so I am the weak one, and this guy is falling over?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Even though Dan at this point, of course, knows that
Yeah.
Corin's a snitch and sabotaging. Yeah. But it's so hard to even fully accept. Like, when we saw that they were doing the toenails first, we were like, why? And then we were like, right.
I know.
Like,
I loved that from Sam because he was so upset at the like bad strategy of it that like
yeah.
even though it was exactly what you theoretically want from the show, it was like still just upsetting that they were doing it.
Right. It's like, how did they land on consensus for this? Aren't they trying to pretend to be loyals? But yeah, it was very fun to have Matt and Dan hanging around, doing just like watching the challenges and stuff and getting to kind of kick it with all of us who were in on the joke. And I think part of what makes it eases the pain of elimination a little bit. That you get to watch it having information that the players do not have.
Yeah.
And selfishly, we got to hang out with them a bunch, which was very fun because they're lovely people. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of airports out there, so we could hardly have sent them home if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. It's so funny.
All right. Any other tidbits from this episode that you might want to share?
Honestly, I wanted to make sure that I noted how good the pies were. But we got there organically.
We did.
So I think that's pretty much it. This was just like from the day that our wonderful I believe co-exec producer Christine Benedetti found and locked down the Alpaca Ranch, we were like all so excited for this day and like this episode. We just kind of knew it was going to be very fun. We all got to like hang out with and pet the alpacas, which was an absolute dream. So I want to give Christine her big ups for finding this place. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it for me on sort of amazing, wonderful insights.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we appreciate those that you've shared with us.
What do you think is going to happen next? I mean, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm just curious.
In terms of the game, like the players?
The vote, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, like do you think that like who do you think is in a good position to win?
I mean, right now it feels like Georgia. Like I think the decision last week to take out Dan over Foreign felt a little strange because it left her in this tough position where she has to essentially convince Foreign to turn on his ally. However, she managed it. So she is now in the position, if they are able to get Patch out, where she's in between Steven and Foreign. And in addition to that, I think still feels like the least likely snitch. So she seems like she's positioned really well to win. However, with Patch, potentially being able to win safety, that could certainly throw a wrench into that.
I forgot about safety. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Now, I think
and I forgot.
I think it would be very difficult for Patch to turn the vote around at this point because even, with 4 extra votes, he would need, in order to even tie, he would need it to be a 3-1 vote for somebody else, with him only getting one. He will guaranteed get at least 1 vote next round, because the person that they're all voting for will want to vote him to add to his votes. So it's like at best, it's going to tie probably. And how would he even get 3 votes at that point? So turning the votes around feels very difficult, but that he has the highest incentive to just like screw everything and go for safety. I'm assuming that going for safety means like sabotaging the competition in some way and losing money for the loyals. But he has the excuse to do so if that is the case, whereas the others don't as much. So So that could be interesting. But yeah, I think right now it feels like Georgia's game to lose. But there's still a couple of rounds left, so anything could
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, I also think it's Georgia's game to lose. I think that just again, I don't want to read too much into the edit because y'all are doing the edits. It's like folks that understand how this stuff works. It's not, these like big production houses that unfortunately have a little bit of a formula to follow. But current edit feels like my queen is taking it. But we'll see. I think I can make a case for each one of them winning, but Georgia and then foreign actually is my next, like, what I think would be funny winner because of just how outrageous he's been, like flip-flopping, throwing water in people's face, right? Like, what you doing, boo? And him winning, hilarious. I think, right, the most campy of the winners. So I like that as well. And I think because I forgot about safety, I was gonna be like, Patch is gone. What? But I think that or I hope rather, I should say, that the three of them band together as like we need to protect ourselves because if he wins safety, we're screwed. So I think they should sabotage Patch, who's sabotaging the game, whatever that may mean. Or Boris is back. But either way, I think they need to figure out how to like sabotage him from not getting safety. I think that should be the next challenge is 3 versus 1 because it needs to be anybody but
Yeah.
me. And right now you on the chopping block, and I
Well,
don't want that to change.
particularly foreign, I think, who
Yeah.
I would imagine recognizes or would maybe at least suspect that he might be in trouble if Patch gets safety.
And Steven has 1 vote on him already.
That's true. Yeah, actually, Steven is in theoretically more trouble because of that. But yeah, and then I guess also I didn't even think of it, but like there's theoretically 2 winners, right? Because you get to the end
Yeah.
with 2 snitches. So there, I mean, I could see a world where it's like, Georgia choosing which of Steven or when she wants to, because like, why would she care? It doesn't, like, as long as she gets there with somebody, she feels like she wins.
Because
Um,
I just think again, I'm reading too much into the edit, I feel, Taran, but because Amy won't tell us anything. But it's fine. I just feel like they included, right, that foreign is really close with Georgia as well in foreign's mind, at least. What does that mean? Is that just for this vote? And that's fine. Or this and the next? Fine. It could be a basic, let me not think too much into it. Yeah. Or is it that Georgia snakes see? Oh my God, that'd be nuts.
I mean, I will say, because like I do feel like foreign has the capability to like flip on Georgia and like just
Yes,
turn it
I
around
agree.
because he was talking about like her being a therapist and like she's got profiles
Profiles,
on
yeah.
us. And so I still feel like there's room to play here, but I do think it like next episode will be huge in terms of what the end game
Mhm.
shapes up to be for sure.
Yeah.
I'm so, like I've been cursed with knowing what happens for
I
so long that
know.
I'm so curious, like, as you watch it unspool episode by episode, like how it's looking.
No,
Yeah.
we're so excited because yeah, it truly could go so many different ways as we just outlined. So cannot wait.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you then. Episode 3 of The Getaway. There is no eliminated player, so we will not have an exit interview this week. But we will be back next week to talk about episode 4 and see if Patch is able to escape his fate here.
The man's been spit on, spit in, whatever. Enough. He's been through so much.
It's been through a lot.
To me, that's what I'd say. I'd be like, y'all didn't get spit. So you know what? I'm talking a little slow. I'm moving slow because I'm traumatized. Y'all gotta let me have this one.
Here's what I'm really hoping for. What I'm really hoping for is that Patch, with an extended period of time, knowing he's a dead man walking, will have a lot of time to think about like his theory and various like Hail Marys he could throw,
Oh,
whether he believes it or not.
valid. Okay.
Like
I like it.
throwing out the idea of like, hey, there could be more than one snitch, or like, just any kind of like thing to shake up the way that people are looking at the game right now could be very fun. But I think it's hard to do that in the moment. Like if he had just walked off at that time, like wasn't thinking that way. But like if he's got a ton of time to think about, like, man, if I don't get this safety, they're gonna vote me out. So I got to come up with something. Then we might see some interesting creative stuff. But we'll see.
Do y'all as producers, were y'all like, you know what? If it were to happen for this double elimination, I'm grateful that it's for the person that maybe can come up with 7 different scenarios.
I'm trying to make sure I understand the question.
Sorry. Like I was saying, are you glad that it was Patch that was voted out in this point? Because like
right.
because
Someone who's
as
like,
Taran
such a
said,
sort
yeah.
of game player.
Mhm.
You know, I would never say I was like happy that any one
Right.
person was
Valid.
catching votes. I think like it being someone who is playing so strategically, like, you know, it made us sort of excited for like what he was going to do, how he was going to play it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think just about any of them, like it would have been hilarious to see how foreign played being in this
True.
situation. Like, you know, I think all of them at this point in the game have really sort of settled into like their role. Like it takes a second to get used to being the snitch and figure out like what you are trying to take as your path to the end game. But it seems like they've each, at least for now, kind of locked in on something. And I think seeing any of them do it would be interesting, but definitely like Patch, who has already been through a lot today. It was, you know, yeah, a real blend of like, oh, feel bad for the guy that he's facing yet another trial.
Yeah.
Feel as a executive producer of this show.
Correct.
Perhaps we're talking.
I do like this episode. To me, felt like even with Tomato Gate, like it was very civil, very polite kind of disagreement. This was the first episode I felt like where the civility started to crack a little bit. Or like they're all still, of course, like friends and nice to each other,
Yeah.
but like the arguments started to get a little more heated. Like, well, I mean, come on, like, why would I do it that way? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, and like I tried to show you the thing. Like they're starting to get a little more passionate about it and crack through that layer of like being too polite to properly play the game, which I really enjoyed watching.
Yeah, very, very exciting turning point in the vibes and stuff. Well, they continue to be sort of, you know, every episode we have to cut out a certain amount of "I love you guys" from everybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, everything in balance or whatever the saying is.
All right. Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You provided so much insight. First and foremost, Thor cheating. You know.
Odin cheating.
Oh, sorry,
Thor.
Odin.
I don't know
Oh.
who Thor is, but I'm sure he's an honest man.
Listen, there might be a few little Thors and Lokis running around. That's the problem.
Right. And Lord knows what they look like.
They'll be fluffy. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, we'll have to ask Patch. He's a zoologist.
Yes, please, Patch.
There you go. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you to all of the listeners who are following along this season of The Getaway. Very excited to come back next week to talk about episode 4. And Amy, is there anything else people should be like following or looking up?
I mean, the Getaway. You know, we as here at Wendover Productions also make notably Jet Lag the Game. Wendover Productions is a YouTube channel. Half as interesting as a channel, which I have to go back to writing as soon as I hop off this call. So there's all that. We've got stuff on Nebula. We've got Logistics of X. All of our players have YouTube channels that are really good. There's sort of a never-ending well of stuff you can be watching. And it's all great. So, you know, get to it.
True. All right. Well, you can, of course, find all kinds of podcasts here as well. We're doing lots of Big Brother coverage right now because we just started up, and it's been wild. It's been interesting. So check all of that out. Sasha, in fact, has some Below Deck podcast.
Yeah, so of
Huge
course.
news from me specifically.
Oh my
but
gosh.
sure, tell the listeners.
Chappelle and I, of course, are covering Below Deck Med over right here on Robinson Podcast YouTube channel. We go live ish on every Wednesday at 3:15. Listen, y'all know we toxic. We come on when we come on. At 3:15 Eastern, usually. And listen, it's a fun time. Join the peanut galley because it's messy. It's a long talk of city boys versus city girls. Check out. We love the hookups, right? So that's all we really end up talking about. We love it. And of course, if you want to know more about pop culture, check out Mess Magnets, where Kirsten McKennis and I are chatting all things pop culture. If you want to know what the hell Brat is, what's going on, check out Mess Magnets, okay? And Taran, anything else you have besides, of course, the Big Brother stuff? I feel
There's too much. We don't need to talk
true.
about it all.
Listen, Taran is everywhere. Check him out. Check his Twitch out, in case you haven't.
Yeah, and I've got a cute little kitten plushie
Yes.
going at the moment as well. So all right. Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and we will see all of you next time.